success, 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 great success, success, success means great profit, great profit, great profit, mediocre success still means profit. Good afternoon, everyone. Still means profit. Still means good afternoon, everyone. Profit. Intense and fun. Intense and fun.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Live TV Ratings Talk. I'm Brandon Thurston, broadcasting live from the Wrestlenomics YouTube channel from Buffalo, New York, where today is Thursday, December 16th, 2021. And I don't know why the time that YouTube shows ends up showing a different time than I sometimes show, but at 5:30 p.m. every Thursday, I'm here live. And this week, coming off of last night's Winter is Coming, featuring a 1-hour match between Hangman Page and Bryan Danielson. 1-hour draw. Dynamite was viewed on average by 948,000 viewers. About half of that, well, less than half of that this week, right? Less than half of that in the demo. Just a 0.31 rating in the demo. A number that has to be disappointing for what was AEW Dynamite's most hype episode in I don't know how long. I just before the ratings came out at 4 p.m., I wrote down on this post-it note what I sort of thought it would be, and then I wrote above it the numbers that I thought that would be impressive if it was above, at or above this number. And then I wrote below it numbers that I thought would be disappointing if it was at or below that number. And this is what I wrote. I wrote 0.36 in the demo, 940,000 total. And I said it would be disappointing if it was a 0.34 or lower. This was an unusual composition in terms of age for Dynamite. We'll get into that. Older than usual audience here. So the total viewership was actually up from last week, but the demo was the lowest that it's been since May, I believe, 19th. Way back in May 19, 2021. So it's the Winter is Coming special episode. Let's see if we can roll out the excuses / reasons and kick the tires on them. If we look at, people often bring up the West Coast issue, which is true, in the West Coast and the Mountain and Pacific time zones, because the NHL has been airing where I am on the East Coast. I live over here I live right here in the Eastern time zone. And right after Dynamite at 10 p.m., the hockey game starts. Hockey has to air live, apparently, throughout the country. And because of that, Dynamite is now airing not at 8 p.m. local time in the Pacific and Mountain time zones, but at what would have to be 5 p.m. Pacific and 6 p.m. Mountain. Normally, Dynamite airs in prime time, which seems to allow it to have better viewership. So that's still happening, but even if we consider that, and by the way, we have seen about a 22% decrease in viewership in the 7 weeks before that started to happen, where it's been airing live in the Mountain and Pacific time zones, and after. Viewership is down 22%, total 23% in the demo. But this is the week that it started. It started October 27th. That was the first week, so it includes this week. It was this week, this episode on October 27th and forward, that Dynamite has been airing live and out of prime time in Pacific and Mountain time zones. Before that, it was airing at 8 p.m., not in the Central time zone. but and in fact, I don't know how it works in the mountain. But anyway, it was airing in prime time, and viewership was quite a bit better, right? We've got a few episodes. We have the 3 Wednesdays here before the preemption. This is when the NHL season starts. And then there's all of these episodes after the NHL season starts where the time zone feed is happening. But even if we look at these weeks where Dynamite did have to deal with the West Coast feed issue, this was still the lowest. This was the lowest in the normal time slot since May 19th. And this was under 400,000 viewers. In the demo, that converts to a 0.31 demo rating, almost a 0.30. So even in this scope, in this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 actually, because it includes this one. This week too, the first week that they were airing out of prime time on the West and Mountain time zones, Pacific and Mountain time zones, they did 941,000 total. 518 in the demo, and that was 518 as a demo rating, which I now know has a decimal place to it that the universe does. Anyway, that was a 0.40. 0.40 in the demo on October 27th. This episode did have to deal with that West Coast feed issue. And again, nonetheless, all of these weeks here were better in the demo, not in total viewership, but in the demo did better than the Winter is Coming episode did. In terms of total viewership, this was what? This was actually better than this October 27th episode, and it was better than all but this November 17th episode. This means that the viewership was older than it usually is. If we jump ahead here, I have quarter hours too. We'll discuss that in a moment. If we look at the median age, the gray numbers here are the Dynamite numbers, and it's always in the high 40s. On occasion, it's 50 years old, the median aged viewer. Way back here, maybe this is May 19th, I'm not sure. 52 years of age was the median viewer. This episode, 53 years old was the median age. I only have median age data going back for the time range that you see here on the screen, which is going back to May 2021. And this is the oldest median aged viewer that I have data for, going back, whatever, how many months that is, 7 months or so. So that's what's happening. We have more excuses to possibly line up here. Well, maybe there was look, there's all this other TV programming happening. Maybe there's season finales and so forth. There's a lot of other fairly popular shows that air on Wednesday night in primetime, including MTV's The Challenge, including Survivor. There's an NBA game, both an early game and a late game running. There's Masked Singer on Fox. There's Real Housewives of Orange County on Bravo. So where did AEW Dynamite rank today, or yesterday, I should say? It ranked number 5 among cable originals in the demo. So it was outranked by all of those programs whose logos we just saw there. It was outranked by those and a few more on network. So the late game was number 2, right? In the early game, who are playing these for the NBA fans out there? I'll let you know who was playing in these games here. It was the Lakers and the Mavericks in the 8 o'clock game, and then the late game at 10 was the Clippers and the Jazz. Those are both on ESPN, of course. Dynamite was only going head-to-head with the Lakers and the Mavericks game, which did lead cable in the demo on the day. But it was outranked by Real Housewives of Bravo by 1 rating point. It was outranked by The Challenge, which I thought had just had its season finale last week, but I guess not, which did a 0.40 in the demo. The Challenge did a 0.40. And again, Dynamite doing a 0.31. Well below, by the way, if we're playing the comparison game of Raw's demo rating, 0.39 this week. It's second lowest in the demo ever. We'll talk about Raw as well for a few minutes here. But was viewing volume on this Wednesday night that Dynamite had to compete with, was it unusual? Was it unusually high because there was a lot of viewing of certain programs? Was it unusually low because people just weren't watching television at all and they were doing something else? That's what you see on a holiday, for example, maybe. But the answer is no, this was pretty typical. This was a pretty typical Wednesday, at least by looking at the data, by looking at this chart where I've got, cable originals plus broadcast viewing, how much viewership was happening between the hours of 8 p.m. Eastern and 10 p.m. Eastern, which is the hours that Dynamite is on television. And it was about 32 million viewers, which was very similar to what it was last week. A little bit higher in the demo, but this was not a little bit higher than last week, but it was pretty typical compared to, I think I've got like 8 weeks on the screen here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I've got 10 weeks on the screen here. And this looks like a very much middle of the road competition chart, if you will. Gives you an idea here, by the way, of how much viewing is in the demo and how much is outside. The green bars here in the demo make up, I don't know what this would be, make up about less than a quarter of the total viewership in prime time. No reruns included in this, but that's the vast majority of viewing, I would think. But there's that. So it's not the competition that I can point to say, oh, the competition was just too tough. It's not the West Coast feed that I can point to say, in the West, the viewership was lower because of the West Coast feed and people not being able to watch in prime time, in the Pacific time zone, in the Mountain time zone, when in fact, since that's been happening since October 27th, Dynamite has achieved better viewership than this. So there's that. So let's dive into what the actual content, and here's the core hours. What was on the screen? Did people tune out as the hour-long match between Adam Page and Bryan Danielson went on? Did they tune out after? And what we see here, you could hypothesize that, well, wrestling, putting a wrestling match on TV for an hour, maybe that's something that viewers are not, into. But what we see here is viewership for the match was stronger. And I haven't looked at this too long, so bear with me. But I think, with the exception of in the demo in the final quarter, I mean, this hour-long match did quite well in the ratings. The last 2 quarters, it stretched across five quarters. The match ended at the top of a few minutes after the top of the hour. The match ended at roughly 9:05. So that's quarter 5, the top of the hour quarter, and then quarter 4, which is the last quarter of the 8 o'clock hour. Both of those quarters averaged an identical 1,035,000 viewers. In the demo, Q4 averaged 428,000. Q5 averaged 418,000 viewers. The first 3 quarters were well over 900,000 and were around 400,000 in the demo. I know when I talk about viewer numbers in the demo, people are more familiar with demo ratings, and we'll convert these numbers to a demo rating to give you maybe a better frame of reference here. But my takeaway from this is that the match did quite well. I think people were into it. The vast majority of responses that I see are that it was an excellent, entertaining, compelling, dramatic match. Tune out, though, after the match was quite strong. The following quarter, the first quarter that didn't contain any of the match, again, Q5, which if I use my mouse right here is right here, contained the last few minutes of the match, the finish that I think people are compelled to see, apparently, judging by this data. And then the first quarter that didn't have any part of the match in it, which contained a video hyping the Tay Conti Penelope Ford match, contained a traditional ad break, a Malachi Black video, and then the beginning, a big chunk of, I think more than half of the Serena Deeb and Hikaru Shida match, which had a picture-in-picture break going through it. That quarter averaged 855,000 viewers and 348 in the demo. What is that as a percentage of difference? That is a 17% loss in viewers after from the prior quarter, which contained the finish of the hour-long match. And then after that, viewership grew back a little bit, 2% and 4% in total and in the demo respectively for the quarter. That included the last few minutes of the Deeb and Sheeta match, the Varsity Blondes promo, a traditional ad break, an Eddie Kingston promo, the MJF live promo that preceded the main event. And then the final quarter grew by 7% in total viewers and 16% in the demo. That was the Dante Martin MJF match, and the post angle. The post angle was only a couple of minutes, but the post match angle that included FTR, Sting, Darby Allin, and CM Punk. There's that, as I say. So this reminds me, one of my takeaways when I saw this, I don't know if I'll be able to pull it up right now, is that it reminds me of what I believe happened last week when in Long Island at the UBS Arena, the show opened up with a long live promo from CM Punk, working heel in Long Island against the babyface MJF, and MJF being involved in the Battle Royal. That was, I believe, the entire first 30 minutes of the program. Maybe I'll look through my folder here on another screen while I talk about this. And that did quite well in viewership. And then right after CM Punk and MJF were off the screen, there was a substantial loss in viewers. So last week was the 8th, right? And maybe if we look at this, am I remembering all these details correctly? I think I am. So what we see here is, over 900,000 viewers total, approaching 1 million in the second quarter last week. I've never talked about quarters this deeply on live TV ratings talk, so you don't have the data yet. So these two quarters doing quite well, and you could probably visually see this better if we look at the line chart, right? Let's make this the right size. So well over 900,000. The only two quarters that are over 900,000. Again, this is last week, because I want to talk about how viewers tuned out after the MJF and CM Punk interactions. Well over 450,000 in the demo. And then afterward, we see quite a bit of loss in viewership. And what is that in terms of a percentage? Dropping 12% and 11% in the quarters that followed. This thing that people seem to have a greater interest in. Sort of like you tuned in, you saw the most exciting part of the show that you were highly anticipating. It's over now, and now we're tuning out. And that seemed to be what happened here. I guess, maybe it's sort of a similar effect when you think about how, and it's very true to this match, right? Is that there's this fantastic match. It was exhausting for the fans, and maybe you just feel like, I don't know, turning on whatever's on at 9 o'clock. Maybe you turn on The Masked Singer or something, which I think did quite well in the 9 o'clock hour. That's not a real theory, but that's just an example of what could happen. Is maybe you went to do something else because you saw the biggest piece of business and of news that was going to come out, which was that big title match, and it was a tremendous and maybe exhausting performance. So anyway, there's that. And I've talked about the median viewer age. With Raw doing some of its lowest 18 to 49 numbers ever, some were anticipating perhaps would Dynamite be in this special episode that did a tremendous rating last year. Winter is Coming did, relative to what it had been doing recently. Winter is Coming, and then the debut of Sting that happened on that episode, which was followed by the first advertised appearance and live promo with Sting, did really well for Dynamite in the ratings in December 2020. So, some expectation, anticipation, speculation. Would Dynamite beat Raw for the third time, live and same day in the demo? No, it didn't. 27% away. Raw, again, if we go back to our first scoreboard here, Raw did over 500,000 viewers in the demo, 500,000 for Dynamite, doing just under 400, 398. So there's that. The only demo Raw measured a little bit higher, Dynamite measured a little bit higher than Raw in was men 18 to 34, and they also consequently measured higher in men 12 to 34, which is a Showbuzz only demo that we get. That number a little bit higher for Dynamite than Raw, but Raw ahead in all the other demos that we have data for here. The biggest margin, more than doubling among women 35 to 49, which is an even greater margin than in people age 50 and over. If I look to the spreadsheet and we look at one of my favorite things to look at is what did this rating do compared to the median of the last 4 episodes, and that's what this table does. And in P50 plus, Dynamite was 21% higher than usual among people aged 50 and over. I don't have any theories for that. The old people like Bryan Danielson. I don't know, but that's an interesting. That's definitely a point that stands out. Over 500,000 viewers, age 50 or over, watching, 21% higher than the median of the last 4 weeks. So there's that. That's Dynamite. And by the way, if you want to ask a question, you can send in a super chat at any value. I think $1 is all you have to contribute, or higher if you wish, and I will go through them if there are any at the end. So there's that. Just finally on Dynamite, and we can look at this too. Maybe you could say, well, people were really interested in this title match and they tuned out after, but what if they were evenly interested across the whole program as they were in the title match, an hour-long match? But even if I open the spreadsheet here and I get the average, let's get the average real quick. Even if I take the average of these first 5 quarters that performed, almost all of them performed better than the latter 3 quarters of the show, I get an average of 985,000 viewers, so only a little bit better than the actual average of 948. And if I average the demo, and here's where we'll convert this to a demo rating. And if I average the demo across those first 5 quarters, just the title match, 411,000 viewers in the demo. 411 as a demo rating would be what? 3.2. Again, this did a 3.1. You get one more rating point. Still, what I would consider quite disappointing. What I wrote down for what would be disappointing, in my view, 3.4. So that's still below my sort of threshold for disappointment here, if you will. So even this title match alone did not, if we look at what a 3.2, we're going to have to look at the spreadsheet here so we can see the demo ratings. So if we go down to the most recent episodes, here's the demo rating. Again, the title match, we could say average a 3.2 rating in the demo. The show overall did a 3.1 rating in the demo. Last week did a 3.1. Did I say 3.1? I meant 0.31. The title match averaged a 0.32. Last week averaged a 0.33 for that Long Island show, which we just looked at the quarters for. So, again, not exceptional competition, not exceptional viewing, no holiday here to look at. We're now some 7 weeks into this, 8 weeks into this issue with the Pacific and Mountain time zones. A disappointing rating, and I don't know how to present it as anything but that. So there's that. So we will talk about we can look quickly at the state of Rampage, as Rampage has gradually leveled off, maybe flattening now at about 500,000 viewers total, with just under half of those viewers in the demo as of last Friday. 503,000 total, 237 in the demo, which is what? As a demo rating for Rampage, that is a 0.18 in the demo, exactly the same as a demo rating as it did last week. So 2 weeks in a row where it did pretty similar viewership. I mean, it doesn't get much closer than that from week to week. So maybe this is where the standard is for Rampage. Rampage, by the way, is not being affected by this West Coast thing because there is no hockey game airing after it. I believe it's airing at whatever time it's supposed to air. It's still airing at Rampage is. Okay. So there's Dynamite. There's Rampage. I do have quarters. I just got quarters for Rampage. I don't have labels, so So I haven't looked at. I have to go through Sling and like look at what was in each show or each quarter, and then create little labels that you see in the text in my charts and stuff. So I don't know what Hook did. I know everyone wants to know. Did Hook pop a rating? I'll have it later tonight probably. So, and by the way, patrons should be getting the quarter hours for Dynamite in their inbox within minutes from now. I think at the top of the hour I scheduled that. So moving on to Raw. Monday Night Raw this past Monday, which did 504,000 viewers in the demo, far better than Dynamite, but still the second lowest in the demo that Raw has ever done. So up from last week's record low by nearly 50,000 viewers. Just over 1.5 million total. Beat Below Deck. They beat Below Deck on Bravo, which they did not the week prior. So it sounds like something to joke about, but really what makes this program or any of these programs valuable is the fact that they perform well when you compare them to other programming generally. Why does NBC Universal pay $4 million per episode for Raw? Because it's among the most watched shows on cable, particularly on a Monday night. The only thing that beats Raw on Monday most ever is Monday Night Football and all the things that touch Monday Night Football on ESPN. So we can see here this chart. In fact, I think I have to show you this view. And if we make this bigger so it's more visible, maybe not that big. But there we go. We can see Below Deck performing under the first 2 hours of Raw. The last hour, as usual, not performing as well. Doing a 0.37 in the demo as a demo rating. The first hour did a 0.40. The second hour did a 0.39. That averages out to what? A 0.40. No, a 0.39. So it was beaten on cable, of course, by the Rams and Cardinals game, which was being broadcast not just on ESPN. But to make things complicated so that it's difficult for me to make comparisons about how Monday Night Football is doing year over year, it was simulcast on ABC as well. Was there it doesn't look like there was a Manning cast either, so it was not on 3 networks. It was only on 2. But doing 14.5 million viewers on ABC, and I believe these are separate numbers. Sometimes these simulcast numbers are combined, but I think these are separate. And doing another 8 million viewers on ESPN for a total of 22.5 million viewers watching the Cardinals and the Rams. And then you have the kickoff and the Sports Center after, all this other programming doing quite well, also beating Raw in the demo. And by the way, what did the game do as a combined demo? A 5.8. 5.8. And Raw doing a 0.4. 0.4. Football can do a 5.8 in this environment. Okay. And we can look at Raw in terms of, we didn't see a massive tune out like we did, I think, last week in hour 3, although we do see some of the smaller demos, the female viewership 12 to 34, down 25% from the 9 o'clock to 10 p.m. hour. It's a pretty small volume demo for a program like Raw, so maybe there's some artificial volatility happening there. But in any case, hour 1 and hour 2 were very even. 9% of the viewers tuned out for the third hour. And we can look at this year over year. I forgot to show you this too. The year over year chart for Dynamite looks like this, where This green line, which represents 2021, is doing better than 2019 in most weeks. But not doing better in these, well, it did do better in this same week versus last year. Granted, all of this time from April of this year and forward has been without competition from NXT. To get sidetracked with Dynamite again for a moment, maybe things will be different. If I were AEW, I would hope that things will be different when AEW Dynamite is on TBS and no longer has to be affected by the West Coast feed to whatever extent that is truly affecting the program. I believe, though, that there is some genuine loss in interest for AEW programming lately, and we see that reflected in Rampage. Rampage is sort of having this effect of being this newer program that did really strong ratings at first and now is really subsiding. But TBS, which I believe they debut on March 5th, is that a Wednesday? It is. I believe not March 5th. January 5th is the first episode over on TBS. TBS is a nearly identical profile, nearly identical household coverage. So that's as lateral a movement as I think you can make. Same company, it's not a moving over to a different partner or anything like that. Still with the Turner universe, obviously. But Raw, let's see. Raw doing in a year-over-year comparison, doing better than last year in the same week in terms of total viewership, just over 1.5 million viewers. Of course, this comparison is in this year where there are live fans. The comparison of last year is the Thunderdome era. That's total viewership. In the demo, of course, the second lowest demo performance ever for Raw is going to be lower than last year, doing about 500,000 viewers, so lower than it was in the year before. I see I'm dropping some frames here, so we'll see if we can turn down the bit rate. Eventually, I will get new internet. Hopefully, there's a new internet company that's supposed to be coming to the neighborhood. We have pre-ordered the internet. We have told them, yes, please build the internet so I don't have to deal with my cable company. So there's that. That's Raw. We'll talk about NXT, the multicolored NXT. Now, War Games 2 weeks in the past. Johnny Gargano, Kyle O'Reilly are gone. And this episode doing 561,000 viewers, 176 in the demo, so up from last week, which was among the lowest. I think maybe the second lowest in its run on USA Network. So this was pretty much, I guess this was up in the demo, but it was down slightly in terms of total viewership. Are there any other benchmarks that my analysis tab caught? Let's see here. For NXT, this was the lowest total viewership since February 10th. The lowest total viewership since February 10th. So, if we look at did P50 Plus tune out or something? What happened with NXT? P50 Plus was down by 9% compared to the median of the prior 4 weeks. Meanwhile, now I'm remembering as I look at this, because I remember writing about this at the time, most of the demos compared to the median of the last 4 weeks. So most of the subsets of the 18 to 49 demo were up. So male viewership within the demo was up strongly. Female viewership was down by 3%. But female viewership on the younger half of the demo was up 44% and up 15% in the male half of the younger half of the demo. So all of that loss within the demo that did occur was largely driven by women 35 to 49 for NXT on this occasion. But the demo up generally, and really the decrease in total viewership driven by viewers, those old reliable viewers over the age of 50. And we can look at a chart. We can look at a chart of P50 Plus, which I think I have right here. There it is. There's good old P50 Plus. and it's the flattest line that we have in all of Wrestlenomics charts. But not this astounding dip, right? In this pink line. Pretty flat still. So, whatever. I don't take a strong takeaway from that. NXT continues to outperform Rampage in terms of total viewership, while Rampage continues to do better in the demo. That's despite running at NXT running from 8 to 10 on a Tuesday and Rampage running from 10 to 11 on a Friday. And just one more thing on the agenda. Nielsen tweeted this earlier today, and I just saw it. They've been putting this out, I think, monthly. Their donut chart of how do people consume video, or I guess consume TV video. And we've got how much of it is cable, how much of it is broadcast, how much of it is streaming. One of the most popular questions here in the world of Wrestlenomics is, what about the streaming numbers, though? Nobody watches TV anymore. Everybody just watches everything through streaming. And that may be quite true for some age groups. Sorry, I keep itching my nose. I don't know why it's happening. But the streaming numbers, this is across everybody age 2 and over. So no doubt, those P50 plus people are pulling this in a certain direction here. But we've got 37% of all of the time being spent watching a television. 37% is watching some form of traditional cable television. 27% watching some form of traditional broadcast television. If you add 37 to 27, you get 64%. That is, I can confirm, more than half, a majority of the viewership of any sort of television content is watching traditional TV. A little over a quarter is watching some form of streaming video, whether that's who are the leaders here. Netflix is number one with 7% of the pie of the donut, if you will. 7% for Netflix, 6% for YouTube, 3% for Hulu, 2% for Amazon Prime Video, 2% for Disney, and 9% is a hodgepodge of others that they don't detail here. So perhaps Peacock, less than 2%, right? Less than 2% each, I would think. So there's that. Just that. What's the point? What's the takeaway here is that, I don't know, people are still watching traditional television. And yes, traditional television subscriptions, cable and satellite, those are on the decline. I was listening to Jason Kylar, who's the CEO of Warner Media, on the Recode podcast with Peter Kafka. He was talking about how, I think he was throwing around a number, I think he was referring to the number of cable households, which was like 71 million, which is the lowest, quite a bit lower than I was aware of. I thought it was just under 80 million. But this is still a number that's larger than the number of subscribers. The number of people who subscribe to traditional TV, to a traditional MVPD, a cable/satellite system, is still larger than the most popular streaming service, which is Netflix, which I think has about 60 million. So it's about 60 million for Netflix. More than 70 million for traditional cable. So people are still subscribing to this thing. Maybe those paths will cross eventually. But I don't think traditional TV is something that is going to completely die. It is something that is certainly on the decline and is being, a lot of that watch time is being competed for and absorbed by a variety of different activities and different forms of television content and television media, I should say, including streaming and internet protocol. But there's still going to be a lot of economics to derive from cable and satellite for a long, long time. And what does any of this matter for wrestling? Well, people pay their cable bills, and some people watching may know. I don't know if people who use YouTube have cable, but maybe your parents do. You've heard that cable is expensive. I don't subscribe to cable. I subscribe to Sling, though, which is a virtual MVPD. But you've heard that cable is expensive, and people still pay their cable bills, and there's a lot of money to get out of subscriber fees. And that's why Networks like NBC Universal and Turner are able to pay WWE and AEW as well as they do, because they generate from broadcasting their content, not just ad revenue, which they do, but also carriage fees the networks charge the cable companies, the right they charge them to have TNT and TBS and USA Network and even Fox. Even Fox is paying to be on the cable dial. So that's all part of the underlying economic system that is supporting professional wrestling and making it more profitable than ever, for sure. So I don't know what else there is to say other than that. So I think that's all for now. We will be back Sunday. I think the Bills are playing at home this Sunday, so this might be an early one this Sunday. With Chris Gullo, we will be back on the Wrestlenomics YouTube channel doing live video, maybe around 9 a.m. or so. Look for the link later. I will put it out there. But if you miss that, hopefully you do and you sleep in on Sunday. But the video will be out there immediately afterwards, and then the audio-only version of the podcast will, of course, as always, be in your feeds, the post-wrestling feed, the Wrestlenomics radio feed, and all that good stuff. So, press like, please. Hit the share button and share it with somebody if you wish. If you know anybody who might find this interesting. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. You can go to the Post Wrestling Discord and go in the Wrestlenomics channel and chat with people in there. You can subscribe on Patreon if you haven't already. If you're in a position to do so, go to patreon.com/Wrestlenomics, and you can subscribe for only $5 a month. You get access to all of my nearly every day. There's a TV ratings report. You get access to the giant Wrestlenomics viewership spreadsheet, which we went through somewhat today. You get audio if you find this program easier to digest in audio. The audio of this program will be up there soon. You get that every week as well. You can follow me on Twitter if you really want to, at Brandon Thurston and at Wrestlenomics. I think that's everything. That's a podcast. Subscribe to it on your apps.